Hello, everyone. It's Danielle Willis back again with another installment of Herstory. I am sitting with legendary women's bodybuilder pro, Michelle Brent. Welcome to the show, Michelle.
Hey, Danielle. Thank you so much for inviting me. You're doing a great, wonderful job with supporting the women in the sport, especially the bodybuilders, women's physique gals. We need people like you because, I got my history once we go through and you hear, didn't have anything like that, and well, I take that back because in the very beginning, we had a lot of the interest in it because you're talking the mid 80s and late 80s and 90s where they actually had it on TV. And I actually was on ESPN. I would say, oh, wow, look, there I am, real quick, but they had it on ESPN. The interest was there, but then it faded, and we'll go through that, and I'll tell you out there, and you, Danielle, how it's changed and why I stayed in it so long and all that, stuff. But yeah, I started in 1986. Literally, I was always an athlete. As I was telling you earlier when we saw you in New York, always an athlete. I always had muscle. I always did sports. I always was a tomboy, but I still had that femininity though. And when I finished school and college, I was like, what do I do now? So I literally saw it on TV. It was, I think, Corey. She was just coming in, and I think Rachel McClish was just going out. And I saw it on TV, and I knew I had this athletic, build and background, and I got really interested in it. And then there was this couple where I had worked in this mall, and there was like a spa gym attached to it. And they took interest in me, and they knew I was muscular. They were the couple of the time, okay? It was when they had couples even. And they did notice me. So they said, oh, you could compete. And I really, So literally 3 weeks later, this is 1986, no, 1985, actually. 3 weeks, they try to give me this kind of whatever diet. I don't know what it was. It was like carrots, egg whites, celery. I don't know. It was really crazy. And because it was like 3 weeks. And then I jumped into the show, which was non-sanctioned, but it was still a big show. And the rest is history. I mean, I kept on going.
So that was the driving force because you were around 27 years old when
Yeah. When I actually
this?
started weight training. I mean, there was always a little bit of weight training with my sports in college and high school. It's very little for women. So you're talking when the evolution of weight training for women, and I was right there, and I just got interested, like I said, in '86, and then I had just a whirlwind, as I was telling you how I got my pro card. I mean, it took 20, no one really knows this, and I told you, and not that many people do. 25 years it took me to get my pro card, and it was not because it took 5 years off, 6 years off. It maybe about 3 years in that whole 25 years I had taken off, and it was just consistent. I was getting top fives and then nationals. The North American, I had, believe it or not, and I don't know if I told you, 6 second places. This is crazy, 6 second places. And then I finally get the win in 2010. Still didn't get the pro card because beautiful Monique Jones was the open heavyweight. I was not going to beat Monique. And then in the 35 and over, there was a gal named Claire McDonald. McClare, I can't. Claire, her last name I can't remember, but I should know it. And she was in 35 and over, so I win the 35 and over there, and she wins the overall. So I'm like, what do I have to do? And I was persistent, being the athlete that I am, and it was and am. I said, I can't quit. I can't quit. This is a determination now. Finally, in 2012, I did it at the universe. So, and believe it or not, and I'll tell everybody because of my history and how many seconds and fifths and fourths and thirds, I was uncontested when I got my pro card because I was already in my 50s. It was crazy because Steve Weinberger was the promoter. And I go, Steve, I didn't hear my name, for the pro card. And the 35 and over gal too, didn't hear her name, and she had won the 35. So we kind of like asked him, and then he was on the phone. I don't know if he was on the phone with Manny, I don't know. But then he goes, Michelle, you got your pro card. I fell on my knees, like literally, literally fell down to my knees because it took that long. Because with women's bodybuilding, as women bodybuilders know, that actually have competed like me in the past like that. And even to this day, you have to win the overall. I mean, there's 4 classes, and it was very competitive back then. I mean, you have 15, 20 girls sometimes in each class. And it was like, okay, you finally win the card. I mean, in your class, it was always the overall. So I'm like, oh, okay, I got into the overall. Okay. Oh, but I was determined. So
going to that show, that last one, what was going through your mind prior to you getting that pro card? Did you believe in your heart that you were uncontested based off of the fact that you had been going for 27 years?
Exactly.
Or because you knew you were undeniable?
No. I knew that, because of my history, there's no way that I'm going to feel like, okay, well, I didn't have, any competition, but I did for 25 years.
Do you believe that because women's bodybuilding was so popular when you first started, it was a lot harder, and then as the numbers dwindled and it started to fade away, that's when you saw more being able to go through it?
Yeah. But you know what? Once again, it was still ironically competitive, because even with the numbers low, there was always 1 or 2 girls, or 3, that were just amazing. And once again, I think it's still to this day, you have to win the overall.
Yes.
Like in nationals, you have to win that overall. You don't get your card for first or second or third.
I like that though. I do like that, because I went pro in women's bodybuilding and took overall, and I believe that in any division, every division, you should take the overall. I mean, the feeling of being, like you said, uncontested, the best in your division or class. I think that feels, I don't know, it just feels really good, I mean,
the best feeling that I think I've ever had was I think that 2010, when I finally got that win.
I wanted to go back to that moment where you said you fell on your knees.
It was just like, I go, you see me, because Steve is a man of very few words. And he, was still like actually on the phone. I said, thank you, Steve. You've seen me so many years. You've judged me. And he goes, and he get the pat on the, the shoulder, type thing. And I'm like, I just, you've seen how competitive and how determined I was. And, and he just kind of, more like I said, more or less the pat and, and nod. And, and I give him a hug, and then that was it. But ironically, full circle, because he had judged me. He was a head judge at the Masters Olympia. And I loved it. I have to show everyone this was what we got at the Masters Olympia. Very proud, excited, that they had selected me, because it was a selection process this year.
So before we go on to the Masters, I kind of want to talk about the Michelle that went into the sport. And now I'm talking to the Michelle who has been in this sport. What has changed mentally, emotionally, as a result of being a competitor?
For me personally, what, Danielle, really not that much. What changed maybe the most was finally, of course, towards the end, knowing, okay, I didn't really have as much of it, even, believe it or not, for getting ready, and we'll talk about that, getting ready for the Masters Olympia. I didn't have that excitement anymore. I knew towards the end that was really changing, but that was towards the end. But throughout the whole thing, my mental attitude, my demeanor, I mean, pretty much people, that know me see me, pretty much the same. I don't change up and down. Well, my husband might think so. But hot and cold, I'm not really, I just kept that, trying to keep an even keel, as I was going on throughout the years.
What piece of advice would you give 27-year-old Michelle?
Just keep your mental positivity. Because a lot of times, you know, I thought, oh, I'm not good. And you know how I think we all do that. I'm not
Yes, we
good
do.
enough. I'm never going to get to the top.
Yeah.
You know, and just, you know, try to keep that positive attitude. And of course, I've learned a lot of that through my husband and throughout the years, because we've been married 19 years. He, you know, I could see how positive. But before that, 27, I would say, you know, more that's probably the most thing I would, you know, give 27-year-old Michelle advice is just staying, you know, positive.
How has the sport of women's bodybuilding changed through your lens? You touched on the fact that, yes, it was on ESPN at one point and more celebrated in the mainstream of things.
Yeah.
And then it kind of dwindled, as we know, and now
Yeah.
it's kind of had its resurgence. But through your lens and eyes, walk us through the last 3
What
decades.
has changed the most, obviously, what has changed the most is the structure of the body, is the muscularity, of course. You know, from when I started, there was that in-between phase when they wanted us 3% less. No, what was it? 20% less. That was like 89, 90. I go, what is 20% less muscle they wanted? Because the women were starting to get bigger. So that's, I think, the main thing, the muscularity. The camaraderie, believe it or not, is better. Back then, oh my God, you know, it's like we're all in a little corner, you know, covered up, you know, it's like, oh, you're not going to see me until, you know, the stage time. And me personally, I've got that personality and I talk to other women. A matter of fact, I got a good story. Isabel Terrell, we competed together in the light heavyweight class. It was the 20, I want to say 2009 or 10. No, not 10, 2008 or 9 North American. And I knew she was going to win the class. I mean, that beautiful, you know, X frame she has. And so she was so quiet, Danielle. I hope you're hearing, Isabel. She was so quiet and so, you know, and I was like, you got it. You got it, girl. It was like she was going for the overall because she had already won our class. And, you know, you got it. And then she's like really enamored or really so appreciative of it, because to this day, she always tells me, because you didn't see girls like that before, you know, we were always like, you know, quiet. And now you see more camaraderie. We take the pictures. We never took pictures all, you know, the class together. So those are the two biggest changes, I would say.
I've noticed as I've come through the last 5 years, in the last couple years, it's changed, and there is a lot of camaraderie and fellowship amongst the competitors, especially in our division. And I like to see that because this sport is hard.
Yeah.
And to do it alone, you know, it makes it even harder. So of course we all want to do our best, you know, we all want to be the best on the day that we show up.
Of course.
But why not have a good time and have create good synergy and energy around you, so when you're standing on stage, you can have a good time, you know.
Right. Even the ones that are a little quieter, you know, backstage, that's just you know, you could see that's just a personality. But at the Masters Olympia, there was so, you know, so a variety, because it was very interesting with the different countries, you know, and a little bit of a language barrier, but not so much. A lot of them spoke English, but the quiet ones, you know, I was like, you know, that's Michelle paying forward or giving. I made little keychains with their names on it. I have it here. This one is right here. It's got the Masters Olympia. I got the logo. That's and had each of the women and every woman that was in my division, and I handed it to them backstage.
So we're talking about the current state of things. And as far as the camaraderie is concerned, it seems like it's on a good front. Let's talk a little bit about what your thoughts are about women's bodybuilding in the professional aspect, you know, the sport itself, the division, and where you are thinking the direction is headed for the division itself.
I see that number one, the women have to, you know, we have to show up at shows. I mean, we have them there. We have Jake Wood, you know, that brought us back in 2015. I was an inception of the Rising Phoenix, and the numbers were okay, but we need to, you know, the girls definitely need to come into the numbers to keep it going. But I could see it still growing, and it's almost like it's like in the infant stages again, in a sense, and even in the pro level, because it's like We got to get everyone, to compete. That's number one. I always thought that we should do things outside of the sport, like like pro athletes, how they go to children's hospitals and stuff like that. I think that would help, and get 2 or 3 or 4 of the women together, doing that, not maybe one, but and that'd be so cool. Just keep it more professional. I think we are, but we could be even better at it, and how we handle ourselves like off the stage. I mean, sometimes I feel bodybuilding is more of an activity or a performance. We call it a show more than a sport. Of course, our sport part is in the gym.
How we present ourselves to the public matters.
Exactly.
And,
Exactly.
and being able to be seen outside of the competing
Correct.
aspect, or
Yeah.
the modeling and all of that, more
Right. I
in the
always,
community.
yeah, I always have. If we're walking around sometimes with Bill and I, but a lot of times, people stop me or whatever, and they wow, you look, and older women, which is, I'm up there now. I'm 66 now, Danielle. I just turned 66 into September.
That's why I wanted to talk to you, because I wanted you to give me your real perspective and assessment, because you've seen this division go through so many different facelifts, makeovers, and
Yes.
resets, and
Yeah.
all the things that we have going on make it great. The fact that we can do the modeling, the fact that we can be the athlete, we can do all these things. But I like what you touched on, wanting to see more of us being human, showing the humane side of us, the
Right.
different
Right.
nuances to us, so that people that may not already be fans and followers go, oh,
Right.
okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
let's take another look.
The most of the general public thinks we're these big hoo women, with these muscles.
Or these deities, these, that just float above with air, and,
Right. Right.
and ease. And it's nice when you see, like you said, someone that is speaking up about, I'm having a bad day, or
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
doing so well, or that moved me, or I have an opinion, a thought.
Right.
All of those
Right.
things, like you said, they
Yeah.
matter.
There's more aspects of us. I mean, it's once again not just the lifting and the grunting and the posing in a suit.
I want to ask another serious question about this
Yeah.
sport, because again, you've been around,
Yes.
and you've seen that there have been disparities. I want to hear in your words. Have you any thoughts on the disparities in the sport, particularly the competing aspect and the rewards?
Some of the divisions, we'll just say in our sport, get more attention, and more love, I guess you want to say. I hate to say it, but the prize money is sad, and this in our sport and stuff. If we're talking just the sport, we need something be worked out here, that we work hard. The men get more prize money, but I think that's a huge disparity. I mean, it's like, let's we work hard.
I don't think it's crime. I think you it's valid to want to be compensated for the work that you put out. Am I right?
Yeah, and that's just in all, I think, the women's divisions, it's like crazy. I mean, I think I saw just a women's physique. It's like $1,000 she gets for first prize. I mean, what? Really? I don't know what your opinions are on it, but disparities.
I just want to say that getting prize money, it's definitely better than not getting anything at all. However,
Yeah.
we put in, I believe, just as much effort. And to be honest, it takes more to do what we do and make sure that we stay as healthy, and our feminine health is important.
Oh,
All of those
exactly.
things that I believe take a little harder work.
We have the right, and I mean, not the, once again, if that's the right word, to because we got letters in last year, from Anya and Tyler, and they go, you can always ask questions, your opinions, our opinions on things. So I mean, it can't hurt. I got my list, believe me.
I got my list.
It was like after the competitive year, we wanted to know, how you felt. And so I'm like, oh, good. I want to.
Yeah, yeah. You're like, I'm ready now.
Yeah. But yeah, I hope things change for us as women bodybuilders. Once again, we have to show up. Women, we have to show up, compete. You love to compete.